Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guests today are Cindy and Christina. Good morning.
Good morning.
And
good
so
afternoon
y'all,
for us.
yeah. And so you work for a company called AECorner, right?
Yes, Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner.
Perfect. All right. So today we're going to talk about resources to help when you're providing care at home.
Excellent.
And so, I'm actually familiar with probably more than I care to know. And so, but what types of adaptive equipment are available?
Oh, wow. There are so many, and this is what we do is try to raise people's awareness of types of pieces of adaptive equipment that are out there. And we don't even probably scratch the surface of it, but,
Right.
And then if you're a caregiver, you don't know what you don't know, you just know what you need. Right. So, there's all kinds. It's probably, if you were to categorize it, adaptive equipment, you could probably break it down by room of the house, like adaptive equipment for the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom, for mobility, for activities of daily living. There's just all kinds of categories for it. So, and to be honest, if there's anything that you use, any kind of, like if you get a wooden spoon to push something off the shelf, in the kitchen or something, guess what? That's a piece of adaptive equipment.
That's right. Yeah. Go ahead.
And so I'm thinking that my sister and I are a piece of adaptive equipment because my mom is very short and she's always just pointed at the things that she wanted. So I'm thinking that we have now become adaptive equipment.
Yes, exactly. That's
exactly
right. You're an extension of her arms.
Yes.
That's it. And we hit that about sixth grade,
Yes.
For both of us.
Yeah.
So, that's funny. I'm sorry. It just made me laugh thinking about that when you said the spoon to move stuff. I'm thinking my mother had 2 daughters to do that.
That's right.
Yep.
The youngest one is not quite as tall as us 2 older ones, So, but I still find myself doing things that, doing those types of things.
Yep. Yep. I know how that is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go with an example and try to get a little more specific to kind of help, kind of give a client's idea. And let's talk about tools maybe that help with somebody with maybe something like arthritis.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do a lot of different things. There's a lot of different things out there. A lot of our viewers really get interested in when we're trying to show them how to open jars, open cans, do things like that, because that's something we do all the time in the kitchen. And arthritis can make that very difficult, whether it's in the wrist, in the hand, in the fingers. We have a couple of items here that we were just going to show, this is a jar opener. And we show things like that, this will adjust to different size lids. You put that on top, you use this. The big thing about arthritis in dealing with things with your hands is you want to try to increase the surface area that you're using, and you also want to increase the lever arm. So that's what something like this does. If you can look at the handle, it's much bigger to grasp. Okay. And then the lever arm. So if you put this on a jar, you've got a longer lever arm here to get some leverage to open that jar. So, we do all kinds of different, here's another little piece for those pesky soup cans with the tabs on them.
Yeah.
You grab up underneath the tab with this, and because of the rocker bottom, it gives you leverage to pull that back, the tab can. So we see a lot of people, talk to a lot of people with arthritis, and there are numerous things out there to help with that.
Just out of curiosity, where does one shop for those types of things?
You could shop all over. You could come to our site and you could see at AECorner.com. And what we do, that's one of the things that we really do is try to narrow things down for people, give them examples. And we actually do videos to show them, how do you use this? There's so much stuff out there that you could get anything, but if you don't know how to use it and don't know how to use it safely, that could be actually detrimental to you. So we do a lot of things. We get a lot of things off of Amazon, but we do work with a lot of small businesses that have products, so there's a variety of things like that.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that, because those look like some pretty cool things. I may just need not having arthritis to make my life easier.
That's
and I was like, I wonder where you get that.
Those are, actually, those are on Amazon, but we will direct you right to them.
Yeah.
Good. So what about someone, tools and things out there, maybe for someone who's had a stroke or Parkinson's?
Yeah. So for somebody that's had a stroke, it will depend on, what's their area of weakness that they're most concerned about. So like, for example, with speech therapy, I'm a speech therapist. Somebody after a stroke may have difficulty swallowing. They've lost the ability to swallow because your swallowing muscles are paired muscles. And after you've had a stroke, you might have weakness on one side or the other, and that can affect the muscles of swallowing or the mechanism. There is a cup that's called a nosy cup, and it's meant for people that have dysphagia or difficulty swallowing, and sometimes that will happen. That's a symptom, side effect from a stroke. And what it does is there's a cutout in the edge of the cup, and so that way when you go to drink the liquid from the cup, it lets you bring the cup up high enough to your face, and it won't hit your nose, and it lets you drink all of the liquid out of the cup without having to tilt your head back. Because when we tilt our head back to get out all of the rest of the liquid from the cup because our nose is in the way, that now makes it a straight shot down into my lungs. And if I have difficulty swallowing, if the timing is off in my swallowing, then that would increase my risk for having something like aspiration pneumonia. So that nosy cup is something. Of course, you've got kind of the more common things that people might see after somebody's had a stroke: a wheelchair, a walker, a cane, a hemi walker, things that people might recognize that a little bit more. All kinds of things for mobility, range of motion for the arm. If they've got hemiparesis on one side, there might be something that they would have that would help. Like, for example, we also have a product called Easy Hold, and this slips over just about any kind of handle, like a pen. You would put a pen in there, and then you would slip your hand through it, and now you don't even have to have a grip. You could actually hang on to it without even having a grip. So something like an Easy Hold, or something they would call a strap or a universal cuff, would be helpful for people that have weakness on one side of their hand or their body.
And I think we could do a whole segment on just how many gadgets you girls have.
Oh yeah. And that, like I said, Kim, that is just scratching the surface. And those are just, either the cool things that we found on Amazon, or somebody kind of told us about to go check out on Amazon, or somebody, lots of times the people that reach out to us, they were caregivers at one point in time, and they found that this particular way of doing it, or this product that I've created, is helpful for my caregiving journey. And then when their journey is done, then they turn into an entrepreneur and they say, hey, this helped me, maybe this will help you. And then they bring it to the marketplace, and then, hopefully we get to be a part of it.
Right.
And we try to raise people's awareness of it if it's super helpful. So
it does, because you don't think about, sometimes you don't think about the little things that helps people continue to do things for themselves.
Yes,
absolutely.
If they just had a little extra tool that would let them do those sort of things.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it just helps their quality of life. And so I just love this.
Yes. Like even the Easy Hold, it's a silicone, food grade silicone strap. The woman that developed this was trying to clean out a horse stall with a big broom. And she had arthritis in her hands and was having a lot of difficulty and pain in her hands to hold the broom. The first prototype of the Easy Hold was actually fashioned out of duct tape.
Yeah.
And it just went from there.
Yeah.
And so, just stuff like that. This is so simple, but it can be life-changing. Even the simplest ideas can be life-saving for people, or game-changing for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a drawer pull duct taped around, just enough where you can get your hands in. So I could see that might have had some duct tape, some good duct tape ideas.
You might have that kind of thinking, that kind of brain.
That's
you
right.
might want to look into that a little more.
Girl, I like duct tape. It almost
That's right. It can work for
everything.
just about everything.
yeah, if I can't glue it, you tape it.
That's right.
So one of those two things should
love
occur
it.
all the time.
That's exactly
I
right.
love it.
So it's interesting. I love the story about how she developed that, and
Yeah.
how useful it is. And
Yeah.
so that's amazing. So
Yeah.
let's talk about money.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, because these are really cool things, and some of them don't look too terribly expensive.
Right.
Little small things off Amazon doesn't seem to be too very expensive.
Yeah.
But does Medicare pay for the bigger stuff, maybe?
That's
or
a
something
great
stuff?
question.
Yeah,
Kim.
that's always a good question, and it's always kind of a puzzle.
Yeah.
A lot of times Medicare will pay, they pay for a lot of the mobility items like a walker, a wheelchair, they'll pay for a hospital bed, but everything comes with a little caveat. And so you have to really kind of watch what's going on, because let's say, for example, a walker, a lot of times they will not pay for a walker and a wheelchair together, because they're saying, well, if you need a wheelchair, then why do you need a walker?
Yeah.
And as a therapist,
Yeah.
come on now, you're
Yeah.
going to progress from the wheelchair to the walker.
That's
but
the whole point.
That's the whole point. But, and then if you have had a walker, let's say you have a regular walker and you're getting better and you want to progress to what we call a rollator walker, which is a 4-wheeled walker. They'll pay for a rollator, but sometimes they won't within a 5-year span of your last walker. So there's all kinds of little, tips and tricks, but unfortunately, most bathroom equipment they do not pay for.
Which is the strangest thing.
They say it's not a necessity, but I beg to differ.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking going to the bathroom is a necessity.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So bathroom equipment, and then, things like a bedside commode. You often need, or you always need, a letter of medical necessity from the doctor, and the doctor has to say you are room bound, meaning you cannot physically leave one room. So there's, like I said, a lot of different things, a lot of doctor's paperwork on trying to get, even a hospital bed, and the number of adjustments they'll include, versus the head and the feet and the height. They don't always give you one with all 3 adjustments. So it's interesting.
And even like the bathroom, back to the kind of the bathroom equipment. And so if it's not covered by insurance, and you go ahead and buy it, let's say off of Amazon or offline or whatever, and if it doesn't work for you, then you're stuck with it, because it's a hygiene issue and you can't return it, right? So now you're stuck with it if it doesn't work for you. And that just, so we always like to tell people, Kim, that if it's a piece of equipment and you're not sure, we always try to point people in the direction of a local lending closet, a health equipment lending closet, or HELP for the acronym. And if they have a local one, go to your local lending closet and see if you can borrow it. It's either going to be free or low charge, and borrow it. Try it before you buy it, right? That's usually the best way to go. Right. And reach out to Cindy and I. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction. We actually have on our resource page, we have a national directory of lending closets in the United States. So, hop on there and see if there's one closest to you. Go to your church. Lots of times churches will have, more of the mobility equipment. Check fraternal organizations, VFW, Moose, those lodges like that. Check a hospice, a local hospice company. Lots of times families, whenever their loved one has passed, they don't know what to do with that equipment. So they will give it to the hospice company, and the hospice company will just kind of keep it in circulation. Whatever you do, don't throw it away. If you have a piece of equipment, please don't throw it away. Take it to a lending closet. Ask somebody if they need it, because a church, anything, because they can hang on to it, keep it out of the landfill.
Yeah, we support one of our community assistance programs in Pearland. It's called CAP. So, and they get all kinds of resources. People will donate all kinds of things,
That's
from
awesome.
walkers to wheelchairs to, unopened diapers. I mean, just all kinds of things. Hospital beds, so you have a storage unit to put stuff in so you can find somebody, that so, and that's really important. And so I was just relieved that the walkers have gotten better as far as practicality. So having the seat to be able to lift up, and you can put stuff in it. For me, it was like, see with family members if needed, I was like, oh, that's a game changer. You can walk. If you get tired, you can sit for a minute, and then you can push them. But ladies can carry their purses,
Right.
and feel like they're going out, without having to feel so, so dependent. And I think I'm super excited that, they do more things to help us, maintain as much dignity and independence as possible.
And now they've got those stand-up walkers, the one where you're more in this upright position. You've seen those before. Those are
nice.
really super nice. They're rollators that you can actually stand up instead of doing like the grocery shopping thing, like you're pushing a shopping cart. Yeah.
Definitely. And so most definitely. So, you girls have been doing this for a while, it sounds like.
Yes.
And so why do you feel it's important for caregivers, to learn the proper ways to assist someone that has no or limited mobility?
Well, it's always very, very important because they're caregivers. And if they are not physically able to care, then there is no caregiver.
Yeah.
We always tell people you've got to take care to care. If you don't take care of yourself, then the longevity of your caregiving abilities is going to be cut short very quickly. Caregiving is hard all around. It's hard financially, emotionally, and physically. And all of those aspects need to be taken care of because, again, the burnout rate is really high. Statistics on caregiver deaths prior to their loved one death is high. So, it's very important to use, just from the physical aspect of being a physical therapist, body mechanics is huge. Protecting your back, always lifting with your legs. Our back muscles were not made to actually do lifting. They're very tiny compared to our thigh muscles, and so we always talk about, and we do, caregiver training on things like that is, starting with a wide stance to get in and help somebody if you have to help them up from a chair, bending at the knees and not twisting and things like that. So it's very important for our caregivers to take care of themselves. The loved ones, we know that caregivers can go 110 and more than that, but they have to take care of themselves.
Yeah. And I think it's just human nature though, whenever even just as a therapist, we all are trained to use proper body mechanics, but when somebody moves a leg or they start to fall or there's just something that just happens off, so quickly like that, it's just instinct to grab and however you can, and maybe you're twisted at the waist and that's not the proper body mechanics. It's just, I think it's just part and parcel. So I feel like if you can train yourself to know the proper body mechanics, that when something like that does happen and you use it consistently throughout your caregiving journey, then that's going to increase your ability to keep yourself safe and your loved one too.
I talk to caregivers all the time about taking care of themselves, respite care, everything.
Yes.
And, and I tell them the story of my grandfather. He did not take care of himself. He thought he was the husband. It was his job to take care of my grandmother. He didn't need any help. And I'd say, can I do anything? And he'd say, no. I'm like, are you sure? He goes, nope, I'm her husband. I got this. And then he had his first stroke. And so then I was like, oh, guess what? And now we put a whole bunch of things in place, and so, and then once he got used to the caregivers being there to take care of her, it allowed him to heal.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when he had a second stroke, we put the caregivers in 24/7 because I didn't want neither one of them to be there by themselves,
Yeah.
And, but, for him, it was, very much old school, so it was, and I've had clients come in that, they look like death warmed over. And I'm like, you've got to do something different or you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Chances are good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be blunt because people, you can't beat around the bush when you're trying to get somebody to do something to take care of themselves. You have to kind of be a little forceful about it. So I appreciate that immensely. Well, you girls have a ton of information. So tell our listeners how they find you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our website is www.aecorner.com, or you could give us a call. Our office number is area code 618-206-8401, or you could send us an email at aecorner15@gmail.com. And we're on all the social media, Kim. We're on wherever you consume it. We're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Girl, we're even on TikTok. 2 old ladies on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, well, I think I'm on TikTok, but not me. I think the business is on TikTok. I don't enjoy that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
That's where we get some of our best questions.
Yes, hopefully somebody's doing a good job for me on that one.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
they are.
Thanks so much for being on the show, and we look forward to having you again on soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.